After spending nearly his entire adult life at Syracuse, Jim Boeheim is out. Autry is in. We'll talk about Syracuse's very, very heartbreaking loss at Greensboro today, the irony of it being in Greensboro for Boeheim, and just what the future may hold for the program, positive or negative. We'll also talk about Boston College's loss, but did UNC potentially lose too?
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
He is retiring as the longest tenured coach in D1 basketball history and the only one with 40 plus years exclusively at his alma mater. Jim Boeheim is out at Syracuse after 47 seasons as a coach. Again, he has been a student, a grad student, an assistant coach, and a head coach, spending most of his adult life as a part of the Syracuse family. Always will be, but an interesting day for the Syracuse Orange Men as they had a near buzzer beating ending to their season, which has already been up and down as it is. Damien Williamson from Wake Forest, 77-74 victory, but it was the way Boeheim went out that has everyone swirling, because it was like a half-ass retirement announcement and then an official like, all right, well, if you don't want to be here, bye from the program. This is Locked On ACC. I am Candace Cooper. Welcome, Kenton Gibbs, as we talk through today's ACC tournament recap, as well as the biggest story coming out of Greensboro, North Carolina, which is where the ACC tournament is held, and that's Jim Boeheim's departure. Kenton, thoughts around Jim Boeheim's very awkward conversation post-game for the Wake Forest-Syracuse matchup in the ACC tournament?
What's up with all these coaches getting forced out? This is some nasty work. This is some real nasty work, especially remembering that we just saw two giants in the game go out on their own terms in their own different ways, right? Roy Williams kisses the floor, goes on, goes off into the sunset. Rides off into the sunset, still around the program. Coach K had his what's that thing called? The farewell tour. He had his farewell tour. Everybody and their mama gave him flowers. These teams are better than me. Maybe I don't have no class in decorum. That may be the West Side Detroit in me. I don't got that in me. Oh, thank you for beating us all those years. We love you. But an ambassador for the game. I don't have that in me. But thank God these other teams do. They're better people than me, so more power to him. He got his farewell tour. But boy, Mr. Bray, Mr. Boeheim. In the words of that character from Courage the Cowardly Dog, the camera loves your nastiness because this is a nasty situation. I mean, Jim Boeheim said, hey, it's the university's call. Jim, what you doing? At your age,
I don't know why it's a shock that he said it's the university's call, because in the day, it's pretty much been the writing on the wall that Coach Boeheim, in my opinion, was going to be out. I think, his curmudgeon approach about answering some of the questions from journalists about whether or not he would be able to still remain the head coach. It was just pretty obvious that he felt a way about losing the Syracuse program, not because, he wanted to, but that's just the nature of, you're not winning. It's time to move on. It's time to change the color of the guards.
Here's another thing that I really want to throw out here. Okay. You and I, both millennials, right? And we've been in the working world for quite some time here. For millennials, it's hard to imagine being at one job for like 8 years, let alone darn near 50. Man, listen, it's time. You've had your fun. You won your games. You got you a natty. In there. Coach, one of the greatest scorers in NBA history in Carmelo Anthony. It's time. Ride off into the sunset. The tournament and Boeheim's Army, they might need a coach. Go get your boys back. Go get the crew together. But it's time, man. And I'm going to say this. I don't have the grace and decorum in me to celebrate my opponents, but to the people who gave me 50 years worth of employment or 50 years worth of being one of the biggest names in the game, or the people who allowed me to become that to some extent, right? The people who just let me flourish and go through the ups and downs. I would leave with nothing but love. Even if I was being forced out when I felt like I still had something left in the tank, all I would leave with is, hey, man, it's been a great experience. I'm a Syracuse lifer. I'm an Orange lifer, okay? And it's been great. It's been real, and it's been fun. I'm telling you, it's been real fun. But it's time. Thank y'all.
When you look at head coaches of college basketball, Mount Rushmore conversations were had. A lot of people, some people are saying, I wouldn't put Boeheim quite up there. Some people are saying, of course, he is the Mecca. Where would you think he falls in terms of greatest basketball coaches?
I don't know if listen, I don't know if I'm going to put him on that Mount Rushmore. Because the Mount Rushmore has 4 heads on it, correct? Jim, we like you.
Why not?
We like you a lot. I mean, listen, as much as whoever you like, whoever you don't like in terms of head coaches in college basketball, there are just some that, I mean, if you put him on there, who do you take off, right? Like the GOAT, John Wooden, UCLA, went years without losing a single game. Years. Got Lou Alcindor, now known as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, out from New York to come all the way out to California. He is who he is, right? Like, you can't argue him. And then next you would say who? Coach K, right? Coach K would be the next guy. I don't think you got too much argument there and anything going on there. And then after that, you probably say who?
Dean Smith.
Dean Smith, obvious third, no arguments there. And then fourth, do you really want Jim to be that fourth? Do you really feel like he's in a class with those guys when you think of all the other coaches that have been magnificent for quite some time, that have more national championships, that have more Final Four appearances, that have more of all those things?
But when you talk about consistency and changing the game or having a set program and it sort of being that's your system and everyone knows you for said system, that's also being, an ambassador of the game in a major way.
But I don't just think it's about an ambassador thing. I think it's about excellence. I think it's about excellence.
I mean, Syracuse was pretty consistent when it comes to excellence. But I guess we just mark of what do we consider excellent, right? If it's national championship or nothing, how many programs are at that level?
I mean, that's fine, but even if we go just conference championships, right? Like, how many conference championships does Jim Boeheim have? I don't feel like he has a number that just jumps off the gym and warrants like, all right, there is nobody else that you can look at. There is nobody else that you can say can fill into that fourth coach spot. Because, some folks may not like this, but I mean, Roy Williams would be a guy that you look at and you say, how do you knock him out of fourth? Bill Self out of Kansas. You look at him and how they have been whooping the wheels off of everybody in the Big 12. Did you know that they went on nearly a decade and a half streak where they won at least a share of the Big 12 title every year?
I did not know that.
What do you do with that? How do you say we want Boeheim instead of him just because he was there for 47 years? Bill Self ain't going to coach Kansas for 47 years. But also, he's not going to need it to accomplish everything that Boeheim accomplished plus some, except for total volume of wins.
Well, has Big 12 always been of the same caliber as the ACC and as competitive?
Well, the Big East and the ACC are better basketball conferences than the Big 12. So, yes, you could say it's easier to win over there, but still to that level, to the level where, like, you're not just the standard. You're like, everybody knows coming into the season, we're competing for coming in second or tied for first. That is bonkers. That is like, wow, craziness.
100%. We'll talk through Wake Forest's win, but I think overall Boeheim gave a lot to the game, should be applauded for that. But yeah. I think it's the way he left and how it was more like you're not fired, but you're kind of fired. So you can call it retirement however you want to. And the tweet coming with it less than an hour of him having his post-game speech is pretty crazy to me.
Listen,
considering the man has 47 years. You didn't give him a nice formal exit, interview, post season conference, post conference where he could have announced it and all the things, give him his flowers, let former players come back and do all the pomp and circumstance. Like, I think that was missed a little bit in Syracuse's decision.
all of you older coaches that are listening to this show, let me learn you something, as they say in the South. I'm from the west side of Detroit, but I've been down here long enough that I think I can sneak that one in there. Let me learn you something. These programs are not scared to give you a retirement. You hear me? I didn't say retirement, refirement. When they no longer want you there, they feel like you've been there long enough, your time is done, they're not afraid to give you that. Yep. So when you feel like that writing is on the wall, go out on your own terms. Go out when you feel like, hey, it's getting close. The sun is going down. Let me go play with my kids. Let me go, like Jim Calhoun did at Connecticut. Let me go coach some D3 basketball or something. Mm-hmm. It's time.
Being the winningest coach at Syracuse, obviously being the winningest coach at Notre Dame, Mike Bray, like, it's amazing to me, the exit strategy for both, and hopefully this can be a learning lesson. But again, for all the years that he's coached, happy that he is going to go to the next level. I'm not sad about him leaving. I think the program will be better off for it, for sure. It's just, I didn't love how the exit went, but, just my opinion. Now, as we move forward towards more ACC tournament coverage, make sure you guys are tapped in with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. Those bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from money line to point scorers and threes drained. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets or get a chance to get a bigger payout with a same-game parlay. Don't miss your chance to get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Rocking and rolling with Kenton Gibbs here of Locked On ACC. We talk through each and every day about all of our favorite teams around the conference. It is tournament time, so we are ready and locked and loaded. Wake Forest again beat Syracuse thanks to Mr. Williamson's 3 with about 7 seconds to go, sealing the fate for Syracuse in its season. Jesse Edwards, Judah Mints did all they could. Some argue Judah Mints should have been freshman of the year. He gave quite a performance to do everything he could to get that team the dub. Came up short, but good on Wake Forest for getting the win. First one for Coach Forbes is moving in the right direction. Win by any means necessary, and then move forward.
This ACC tournament is so interesting because there are so many teams that they're right outside of, like, anything outside of winning this tournament, you're probably not getting in. And this Wake Forest team is one of them. And they got a break to go in their way. And in March, that's all you need. You need a break. You need to keep it close and get a break. And they got one at the end there with an excellent shot from Williams. That's where, they come away with the win here, 77-74.
They have an opportunity to keep things rolling for a Hoop State conversation that we'll have here just a little bit later. They'll face Miami on Thursday at noon. So they'll kick things off for us from a tournament perspective. Pitt was able to squeak by Georgia Tech 89-81. Game a lot closer than the score showed. It was Pitt for the majority of the first half. Georgia Tech, though, would not go away. They kept cutting the lead down to 5-7, 3-2, tie. Like, it just was very much Yellow Jackets trying to fight and claw their way into it. But, Pitt's offensive unit with Henson and Burton proved to be a little too much, and Sabandi, proved to be a little too much for the Yellow Jackets ultimately. Good fight. We've shown some promise, but, not the Yellow Jackets way for sure.
I told you that these teams that were playing on the first day, they were not going to make no noise. That noise was going to be real. It was going to be a whimper. It was going to be a little, it wasn't going to be a bang. But anywho, Peninsula P, get your boys, because they out here messing around and playing around. And in the ACC, the more that you mess around, it's not a linear graph, as old boy made on TikTok, where it's to mess around and find out. Oh, no. It's exponential growth. Once you get to a certain level of messing around, that thing skyrockets in a hurry. They better not keep playing this game.
Yeah, 1,000%. North Carolina beat Boston College, probably the most lopsided game of the night. Well, top two.
I was
80,
going to say now, hold on now. Wait a minute.
85-61 victory for the Tar Heels. I think that's, as much as we want to applaud North Carolina for being very offensively efficient, it came at the cost of Armando Bacot re-injuring that left ankle that he did at the Virginia game. He went out. They had to bring his family down. People were saying, should he come back? He did come back in the second half. People were saying, don't put him back in, give him time to rest. But he, quote unquote, wanted to show that he was more than capable. Eventually did go out of the game to rest it because it was pretty nice lead for the Heels. Caleb Love, RJ Davis have found their stroke. RJ Davis leading that offense more, being the main ball handler. It's been nice to see that notion. I think for me, the most surprise, I knew the game was going to go different when Caleb Love gave up a shot, and it was like 2 minutes into the game, gave up a three and passed it to and fed Armando. And I was like, okay, maybe the tide is actually turning. They're understanding the assignment and playing for each other.
This game produced what was the tweet of the night for me from a good friend of mine, Brett Friedlander, and I'm going to read it for you all here. Justin McCoy hasn't done much during his UNC career, but he'll always have that exclamation point dunk at the end of this one. Hilarious on a lot of fronts. Brett means well. He really does. But boy, what a funny tweet. Anywho, this game was one that, UNC did what they had to do. They're another one of those teams. You keep winning and you win and you'll be in. I don't see any other road for this team. It's not there. Not there for me. Not really seeing it. But they have a chance to win this tournament. And so, that's their shot. That's their path to making it. And so far, they're successful on that path.
And I think being the first four out and having Armando Bacot be injured and potentially out certainly does not help their case. But, we can talk about that here as we preview today's games. NC State 97-57 victory over Virginia Tech. It was all coming out swinging. Baby T was in full effect, making threes out the gate. And I think you could just tell he had been waiting all day to just unload on whoever was going to be the opponent in NC State basketball, doing what it does best, and that is playing together. It was nice to see them just flow. NC State be in a groove, not have a first game exit or be caught up in, just the over the moment, maybe getting outplayed or underplaying to what their potential is. So it was nice to see NC State doing what we know they're capable of.
This thing got ugly early. I'm in the gym working out, watching the game, and I'm just like, okay, this is a tough one. But with that being said, NC State was one of those teams that I feel like they're in. I feel like they're good, but they couldn't afford to lose this game. They could not afford to lose this game if they wanted to be comfortably in. So with that being said, it's a good start. They have a path to get in without winning the tournament, but you don't want to have a first round or, technically a second round exit in the ACC tournament because, the best of the best haven't even played yet. So there's that.
1,000%. So speaking of the best, let's roll through today's matchups. Wake Forest and Miami. As I mentioned, Wake Forest being the number one seed of the tournament. They are co-champions of the regular season for the ACC. I think the Hurricanes are the team to beat. They have shown themselves to be very much mildly and forceful when it comes to offense, but also defensive efficiency. Isaiah Wong, Nigel Pack, you got Omir. I think it's just Miami right now. I'm feeling like it's Miami and everybody else. But Wake Forest, day two, can you come on some halfway fresh legs and shock the conference? Could happen.
This is a team in Miami with tournament experience, with good tournament experience, with deep tournament run experience. And so it makes sense that you're looking at a shorthanded, undermanned Wake Forest team that you should go out there and dominate. But ladies and gentlemen, it is 2023, the year of our Lord and Savior, 2023. Everything that can't go wrong will go wrong. So Miami, don't let it go wrong for you. Don't play around. Don't play with it. Don't play with it. Don't play with it. Eat your food. Don't play with it.
I definitely think that this is going to be the first game that we feel the absence of Damari Monsanto and his 3-point efficiencies and helping Wake Forest stay in games. And it's just going to not be enough for the Demon Deacons, and the Hurricanes are going to ultimately come out on top. Let's talk about Pitt and Duke here, who will face off at 2:30-ish. And Pitt being a team coming off having to play in the second round. Duke Blue Devils on fresh legs. This is Duke, a whole lot of young people. They say they don't feel like freshmen anymore. They feel like they are vets in this game and can play as such. We'll see if the X's and O's, Shire versus Capel, come out to be in Capel's favor with his, leadership and tenure as being a coach in this game for a little bit longer than John Shire, especially as a head coach. But John Shire could be coming in saying, I'm hot and heavy and ready to go.
Greensboro is close to Durham, but not close enough. I think that the Pitt gets the job done here. I think they take care of Duke. I think that this is a game where, Duke great at home, on the road, pedestrian at best, neutral site, pedestrian at best. I think that Pitt finds a way to come away with the win here.
Is this a neutral site?
I mean, technically, yes, Greensboro is much closer to Durham than it is Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. But, at the end of the day, if they're not in Cameron, it's tough. It's a tough go for them.
Sure. I think because of the time that they play, sometimes you'll see North Carolina fans in the building a little bit earlier to cheer on the opponent of Duke, whoever that may be. And so that could be an opportunity. But unfortunately, North Carolina doesn't play until 7 p.m. So you might not see that as much, or even NC State folks. It could be anybody but Duke type energy, especially because the Hoop State is always about trying to get your in-state opponent up out of there. Speaking of North Carolina, they beat them once. Maybe they'll beat them again. They face off against a really good Virginia team who's probably looking for a lick back. Hard to beat Virginia twice. We always talk about it's hard to beat a team 3 times. It's hard to beat Virginia again. They have a great coach who studies film and it really applies that to his players. You got Reese Beekman, Defensive Player of the Year. Kihei Clark, who's played more games than anybody in their mama. I just feel like without Armando Bacot, it's going to be very tough for the Tar Heels. Without even Armando at 100%, it's going to be tough.
The only path that I see for North Carolina winning this game, one of the other guys has to go legend. They have to do something that is like, wait,
unforgettable.
What?
Yeah.
We have to look back at this game for the next 10, 15 years and say, that's the Caleb Love game against Virginia. Back against the ropes. They were looking like they were going to get taken out of turn. That's the only way that they've got a shot. But on top of that, Virginia's going to have a cold offensive night. Because if Kihei Clark is scoring, we all know him as the all-time assist leader at Virginia, but if he gets to scoring, if Gardner gets to scoring, if McNeely comes in off the bench and gets to scoring, and they do so efficiently, and they can force North Carolina into bad long shots that end up in long rebounds where they can get out on the run. Yeah, it's going to be a long night for the boys in baby blue.
If anything, I think Leaky Black, who probably feels snubbed about being Defensive Player of the Year, should do is really be a lockdown defender this game. Like, this is going to be his game where he says, you guys snubbed me, and I'm going to make sure you remember that. That has to be coming from a 5-year vet. This is his last opportunity. If they don't beat Virginia, I just can't see the path. I don't see the path to them getting an NCAA tournament. They need this win, arguably more than anybody else here in this field. And I can make that argument for Clemson as well, because as they face NC State at 9:30 on ESPN, Clemson, especially being ranked 4th, you got to come out doing the damn thing.
Clemson, surprisingly enough, and I hate that it is this way. I hate that it is this way. They're one of those teams that they don't need to win the whole thing. They need to win multiple games to get in.
Mm-hmm.
They need to win multiple games. They whooped the wheels off NC State. And when I say whoop the wheels off them, I mean down to the chassis. It got nasty last time they played. With that being said, some people are arguing that Jaquavian got his swagger back. Jarkel looked like Jarkel. DJ Burns did DJ Burns thing. Clemson earned the double bye by beating NC State. Does Clemson take advantage of the rest that came with the double bye in this game? I think it'll be exciting. I know for a fact it'll be much closer than the last contest.
Absolutely. I think it's like, when it comes to regular season, this ain't that and that ain't this. Tournament time, you really got to throw the records out of the book. I think Hunter Tyson, PJ Hall, the big boys are healthy. It's going to be a big test for DJ Burns, but offensively, can Brevin Galloway get the boys going? And can, Jarkel and Jaquavian not get cold? They were hot tonight. Can they get just as hot, if not more hot, to head into a quarterfinals matchup that could help them propel them to semifinals and then finals? We'll see.
How does the fish grease at the church cookout, boy? I mean, smoking else. What a sight to behold.
And it would be awful if they couldn't buy a bucket when they definitely have, as we saw tonight, their capabilities. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that one. And as we roll through, again, I mentioned potential for 4 North Carolina teams to get into the semifinal situation if Wake Forest upsets Miami, if Duke upsets Pitt, if North Carolina upsets Virginia, if NC State's take care of business against Clemson. 3 of them have to be upsets. I think the 4th one definitely could be a well-deserved conversation. Crazier things have happened. I don't think it happens here, but you never know.
I mean, I believe that Clemson swept NC State this year in basketball. I'm pretty sure. I feel like that's
like I said, this ain't that ain't this.
But again, I'm gonna tell you this: if I'm Coach Keats, I'm walking in that locker room, and I'm just turning on NBA YoungBoy Prince of Utah because I need all shooters coming out. I need there to be a parade inside your city. Yeah, I need that energy from my backcourt. If this game is going to be again, and my front court, I need y'all to bring some Black Air Force energy. But with that being said, again, Clemson swept them for a reason. Like, this is a Clemson team that matches up really well with NC State. So, again, this is a game where, I personally would think Clemson would be the favorite, but we'll see.
I think that NC State has talent. They haven't played up to it, especially in these Clemson matchups where they're more than capable of beating them. But, crazier things have happened. We have so much coverage here for ACC, but as well as college basketball around the Locked On Podcast Network. Make sure you guys check that out. We're about 50 away from our 1,000 mark. So we're looking for those subscribers to get there. Please make sure you download, subscribe to the pod from anywhere. Follow Locked On College Basketball. Follow all of your local teams. Locked On Syracuse, Locked On Wolfpack, Locked On Canes, Locked On Pitt, Locked On Blue Devils, Locked On Tar Heels, Locked On Louisville. There's a lot of our conference shows, our conference teams that have local experts, and they're all going to be giving you those quick Locked On Nows, talking about their games breakdown. Locked On Pitt, fun times had by all, so make sure you check it out. Candace Cooper, Kenton Gibbs, we're out of here, but we'll be back for a quarterfinal preview on tomorrow. Until next time.